Welcome back to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is Carolina de Riva, and today we're going to be talking about being unstoppable. I have to be honest, but I was tempted to leave this episode to be the very first one to kick off 2021. But then I stopped and I told myself, why? Why wait? I firmly believe that we should not wait until the next week, the new month, or the new year to start working on pursuing our dreams and our goals, to start working on becoming a better version of ourselves. I firmly believe that every day is a fresh start to be working and focusing on all these things. And that's why I decided that there's no better time to talk about this than today. So let's talk about what is being unstoppable and what are 20 things, 20 principles, strategies, or things that people that are unstoppable share that can help you start being unstoppable. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Riva. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. If we're going to be talking about being unstoppable, we need to start by defining what does being unstoppable means. And I have to start by saying that being unstoppable means different things for different people, and that's totally okay. Today, I want to share with you my definition of being unstoppable. For me personally, being unstoppable means having the drive, the energy, and the determination to pursue one's purpose, to be willing to do whatever it takes to achieve your purpose and your vision. It's not giving up no matter what obstacles come your way. Is never settling. Being unstoppable for me means never stop learning and growing and knowing that there is always more, that we can be better tomorrow than we are today. Now, let me ask you, what does being unstoppable mean to you? Even better, what would be possible in your life right now if you were unstoppable? Seriously, if you want to take this question seriously, if you've never asked this to yourself and you want to discover what it would mean to you, grab a piece of paper and write down whatever comes to your mind. What does being unstoppable mean to you, and what would be possible in your life if you were unstoppable? As you answer this question, I also invite you to think about 3 categories of your life and what would being unstoppable mean for each of those categories. The first one is health and energy. The second one is your relationships. And the third one is wealth and work. Many times when we think about being unstoppable, we think about all the things that we need to do. But today, in this episode, I want to invite you to look and think about it from a different perspective. The key question to ask yourself is, who do you need to become to be unstoppable? I truly believe that being unstoppable is a matter of attitude and mindset. So let's talk about some of the principles, the habits, the mindsets, and perspectives that can make us unstoppable. Here are 20 that I have experienced in my life or I have observed in others that I would deem or see as unstoppable. Number 1. Have a deep and big why. I think that this is where all starts, in having a very clear, deep, and big why. Why is this important to you? why pursuing your vision, your purpose is important to you, why your purpose is important to you, what does it mean to you to pursue this in your life. Number 2, have clear goals. And not only have clear goals, but set goals that are beyond your capabilities. If you want to be unstoppable, I mentioned one word in my definition of unstoppable is someone that doesn't settle. And for me, in order to not fall into settling, you need to always be asking more and more. When you set goals, it's very tempting to set goals that are within our current capabilities, thinking about the things that we currently can do. But unstoppable people go above and beyond that. They set goals that are beyond their capabilities. So they know that in order to achieve those goals, they need to become someone that they're not today, or a better version of who they are today. Number 3, act more than you think. How many times we get stuck in analysis paralysis? We think about what we want to do and we think about it again and we think about it in a different context or from a different perspective, and we never take action. If you want to be unstoppable, you need to be taking action most of the time, taking action more than you think. And this is very close with the next point, number 4, start before you're ready. As I mentioned before, we can easily get into the trap of planning the perfect way of doing something. How would this be or look in the perfect world? And we plan and we plan and we plan, and we don't want to get started on our dreams or working in that better version of ourselves until it's very clear exactly what is the path that we need to follow, until we know or think that everything is perfect. Unstoppable people, they start before they're ready. I'm going to touch on this later on the podcast today, but for me, how this has manifested in my life, and I think this is just part of who I am, but I catch myself doing this over and over again, and I've become more aware of me doing this. But typically what happens? I have an idea. And if that idea is aligned with my purpose and my vision, and I feel excited about that idea, I just jump into it. I share it with the world, and then I figure out, how am I going to do it? And then I start working on it. Many times I start working in the wrong direction, and then I need to recalibrate or take a different path. But I'm always moving. And always having clear why I am moving. Number 5, never be satisfied. In order to be unstoppable, you need to have this burning desire of always wanting more, of always knowing that there is a better way, that today can be better than yesterday, and tomorrow can be better than today. Number 6, put pressure on yourself and set high standards. Unstoppable people have very high standards of themselves. They also have very high standards of others, but I would say even higher standards for themselves. Because as I mentioned before, they're always trying to reach beyond their current capabilities. They're always trying to push themselves out of their comfort zone because they know that there's where growth and transformation happens. Number 7, they take responsibility. If you want to be unstoppable, one characteristic that I have observed on those people that have served as role models for me is that they take personal responsibility. And when I think about taking responsibility, the first thing that comes to my mind is the 7 habits of highly effective people. I mentioned in previous episodes that that's the book that has most impacted my life. And in habit number 1, Dr. Covey talks about being proactive. When we think about being proactive, the first thing that comes to our minds is someone that anticipates action, right? That takes action. But in the context of the 7 habits, being proactive is about taking responsibility for our own actions. And that is exactly what someone who is unstoppable does, is always willing to take personal responsibility when things go right, but also when things go wrong. Number 8, be authentic and genuine. I don't know anyone who is unstoppable that is not authentic and genuine. I mean, it would be so hard, right? To be unstoppable, to be always going and going and going without being able to be yourself. That will be the biggest punishment that you can have in your life. If you're going to be in this journey over and over, if you're going to be pushing the limits, having high standards, going beyond your capabilities, getting uncomfortable, you need to do it because it means something to you and it's true to who you are. Number 9, don't be afraid of failure. Failure, or better of, the fear of failure is what paralyzes us, is the number one thing that stops us from taking action. We talked about it before on point number 3 when I said act more than you think, or number 4, start before you're ready. If we are afraid of failing, we're never going to get to the point that we take action because we are afraid of us making mistakes. We will be afraid of us failing, or better of, we will be afraid of others seeing us failing. To be unstoppable, you need to be able to let go of that fear of failure. People who are unstoppable, they actually enjoy failure because they know that failure is part of the journey to success. That failure is a milestone to get to the end goal. That failure is an opportunity to learn. So when they fail or when they fall, they don't stay down, but they stand back up and keep going. And they know that if they fail, they will learn from that experience and that will make them better so they can keep going and keep improving every day. Number 10, don't compare or compete with anyone else but yourself. In today's world, it's so easy to compare ourselves with others. We see it all around social media. People are posting all these things and we look at these pictures and we start comparing ourselves with those people. But the truth is, social media doesn't tell the full story. You might be comparing your low points with someone else's high points. You might be comparing the beginning of the journey to halfway their journey. So, in order to be unstoppable, you need to be obsessed with comparing and competing with yourself and nobody else. People who are unstoppable, they don't care about others around them. I mean, they do in terms of serving them or learning from them, but not in terms of comparing and competing. They're always in a constant competition with themselves. And here I made a podcast episode on Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books. I met with some of my friends and we chat about our key takeaways from this book. And one of my key takeaways from that book that can be related to what I just said is the 1% rule. Unstoppable people are always thinking in terms of the 1% rule, which means be 1% better every time. And that's how they compete with themselves. Number 11, stay curious, take risks, and experiment. Unstoppable people are extremely curious. They're always asking questions. They always want to know why or how things work. They're always trying to dig further. They're always asking questions. They're also willing to take risks and do experiments and learn from those experiments. We talked about the fact that they like failure. And in that context, they like to experiment things, learn from them, and use those learnings to propose them to the next step in their journey. Number 12, never stop learning. This is definitely one of my favorites. I think that when someone is unstoppable, I think that you become obsessed with learning. Obsessed is the right word. People who are unstoppable, they're always learning and looking for ways to learn. Learn in both ways, from the outside in, but most importantly, from the inside out. Meaning, yes, they're looking to read the books, to learn from others who are good at what they're doing, from listening to podcasts, from all those things. But most important, they're focused on the inside out learning, which is based on self-reflection and learning from their own mistakes, learning from their own experiences, and applying that as they move forward. Number 13, visualize the impact that you want to make. Who do you want to become, and what do you want to accomplish? The key word here is visualization. People who are unstoppable, they rely in visualization to set new standards for their lives. Visualizing what can be, visualizing the impact that they want to make, or how does that better version of themselves look like, keeps them going. Because as they visualize these things, they see them as real in their minds, and they become obsessed with pursuing the things that they have visualized. They're becoming obsessed to be making that kind of an impact, becoming that kind of person, and accomplishing the things that will enable them to do those things. Number 14, stay focused. This one, I have to say, is one that it's always challenging, especially in today's world where we're surrounded by so many distractions. But people who are unstoppable, they put their blinders on and they stay focused on their purpose and their why. And they don't get easily distracted by the noise around them, because it's so easy as you're moving in your journey to get distracted with things on the side and end up in a complete different place than what you want to go. And here's also where visualization becomes so powerful in staying focused, because if you have a clear vision of the kind of impact that you want to make, what is your compass, your direction as to where you're going, it's easier to stay focused on that because you have a strong why behind achieving and pursuing those things. So unstoppable people have the ability to stay focused on their vision and their purpose, put their blinders and shut down all the noise around them. Number 15, increase the intensity. I'm sure that by now, 15 points into this discussion, you're already getting the sense that living and being unstoppable means living an intense life. When you look at people who are unstoppable, the first reaction that typically you get is that he or she is intense. Their lives are intense. They're never stopping. They're always on the go. They're always doing something. Or we even question, how do they find the time to do all the things that they do? But unstoppable people are always living intensely. They're always increasing the intensity, and they thrive when they increase the intensity. Number 16, develop self-confidence. I think that self-confidence is so necessary in our path to become unstoppable. Because as you start new projects, as you pursue new dreams, as you work on becoming a better version of yourself, however that looks like, you're always going to be faced with pushbacks, with questioning from others that might not understand what you're doing or why you're doing it. And if you don't have a strong self-confidence, it's very easy to give up, to give in to the comments that other people are making or the questioning that other people is making. You need to have that solid and strong self-confidence to be able to stand up to your purpose and your vision and stay on course. Number 17, surround yourself with people that you admire. I've talked about this in many other podcast episodes, but you are the combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Who are you spending the most time with? If you want to become unstoppable in any area of your life, you need to make sure that you surround with people that are role models, with people that you admire, because that energy will be contagious. You become what the people around you are. So it's always important to, on a regular basis, assess who are the people that we're spending our most time with? And do we have the right people on that circle, right? Do we have people in that circle that we admire that can serve as role models, that are going to support us to get energy to keep going in our own journey and becoming better than we are today? Number 8, let go of the things holding you back. It's like, I like to use this analogy. If you were to go climb Mount Everest or whatever other mountain, just to exaggerate things a little bit here, but imagine that you are going on a quest to climb Mount Everest and you have a very heavy backpack on your back. At one point, you're not going to be able to keep going because the weight of your backpack is going to pull you down. And eventually, you're going to give up. The same is here. In our journeys on life, we need to let go of the things that are holding us back, all the things that are in that backpack that we're carrying. Because the more things that we put on that backpack, the more weight that is pulling us back, and eventually will lead us to stop, to give up. So let go of the things that are holding you back. Number 19, say yes and figure it out later. I talked about this earlier on the podcast, but I mentioned this is one thing that I've observed I constantly doing, and I do it unconsciously, if you will, but especially in the last couple of years since I started this journey of self-growth and self-development, I found myself doing this all the time. The other day, like a couple of weeks ago, I was having coffee with a friend and she asked me, what is the next thing that you're going to do? And I said, no, I don't have any more plans from now to the end of the year, just the same things that we're currently doing. And then a few days later, this idea popped in my mind. And the idea excited me. It was aligned with my purpose, and I felt this sense of excitement. And I decided to say yes. I share it with the world, and then I'm still figuring out how I'm going to do it. But that's how I operate. Finally, number 20, think and act 10x. The 10x rule is based on this idea that you should figure out what is that you want to achieve and then multiply the effort and the time that you think it'll take to do that by 10. Yes, by 10. Okay, those are the 20 things that I wanted to share with you today about how to become unstoppable, or what are some of the characteristics that unstoppable people share. I hope that you liked today's episode. If you did, as always, I'm going to ask you to go to iTunes and leave me a review. While you're there, make sure that you subscribe so you get notifications every time there's a new podcast episode. And if you can think of anyone in your life that can benefit from today's content, please share the episode with them. With that, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you again on another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.